In April of 1992, a young man walked alone into the Alaskan wilderness with little more than a backpack, a rifle, and a dream. 4 months later, his body was found in an abandoned bus. His name was Chris McCandless. Chris grew up in a home that looked stable from the outside, but according to his sister Corinne's book, The Wild Truth, their family life was far from stable. According to his sister Corinne, their father drank heavily, and the drinking often fueled violent outbursts that defined their childhood. After graduating from Emory University, Chris left his Atlanta home without telling anyone. Before disappearing, he donated the last of his savings and burned personal documents. He drove west until a flash flood near Lake Mead disabled his car. Stranded in the desert, he dug up the little belongings he had hidden earlier, took what he needed, and burned the last of his cash. From that point on, he signed his journal as Alexander Supertramp, a new identity for a life with no way back. He moved on foot for the Mojave Desert, living with almost nothing and avoiding contact wherever he could. From the desert, he drifted south and eventually reached Houston. He didn't stay long. Houston was just another stop, a brief checkpoint on a wild journey. Soon after, he hitchhiked north to South Dakota, where he worked for Wayne Westerberg. It was here in Carthage he finally let himself settle down, but only for a moment. Only a few weeks later, his journey would only grow stranger. He paddled the Colorado River into Mexico in a second-hand canoe. He was arrested by Border Patrol upon re-entering.
Stop! You violated the law.
He then tried living in Los Angeles, but left almost immediately, overwhelmed by the vast city. He spent time with drifters and nomads at the slabs in California, people who cared about him more than he cared about himself. Eventually, he returned to South Dakota one last time before heading north. Every stop was temporary. Every connection was brief. It was clear Chris wanted to leave no breadcrumbs. He then had his sights set on Alaska. He crossed the Teclanica River when it was low in depth and settled in the abandoned bus deep in the wilderness. It was abandoned there in 1961 by a construction company which had used it as temporary housing for workers upgrading the Stampede Trail. A broken wheel axle made it impossible to tow out. For a time, Chris survived in and around the bus, but when he tried to leave, the Teclanica River had risen too high to cross. Trapped, and with livestock in the area thinning, he relied on wild potato seeds for food, seeds later found to be contaminated with a toxic mold. The toxin that likely killed Chris McCandless is called ODAP. The full scientific name is shown on screen. ODAP causes paralysis and prevents the body from processing nutrients. Alone, without medication, and unable to escape, Chris McCandless died after 113 days. Chris McCandless did not die because he was foolish. He died because he underestimated how simply unforgiving the wilderness can be. Chris's journey is a result of his desire for, quote, being the first to explore a blank spot on the map. However, John Krakauer, the author of the book that helped publicize the journey, Into the Wild, wrote, in 1992, however, there were no more blank spots on the map. Not in Alaska, not anywhere. But Chris, with his idiosyncratic logic, came up with an elegant solution to this dilemma. He simply got rid of the map. In his own mind, if nowhere else, the Terra would thereby remain incognita. People still argue about who Chris McCandless was and how he died. How he died exactly, we will never know. But as for who he was, some see courage, others see recklessness. But he wasn't a hero, and he wasn't a fool. He was idealistic, spearheaded, and unprepared. His intentions were sincere, but sincerity does not change the reality and brutality of the wild.